Another question I get asked a lot is, can you do Some Game the Musical? Only most of the time it's not really a question. Sometimes it's just, do Cuphead the Musical. And sometimes they just keep on eliminating words until it's Cuphead the Musical, Cuphead Musical, Cuphead Music, Musical Cuphead, Music Cuphead, Cup Music Head, and various other permutations of do this thing because I don't know how to make a complete sentence. The unspoken answer is usually no, and it's unspoken because usually when I explain no, people call me a heartless fuck-ass. This has actually happened when I explained no, Five Nights at Freddy's would not make a good musical. This isn't because I hate my fans and how dare you make requests, I'm too good for you, rah rah rah. This is simply because of the work that goes into a musical means that taking requests for full musicals is not possible. I believe the confusion comes from a bunch of other videos on YouTube being labeled as musical when, by strict definition, they're not. Musicals like Random Encounters does, for example, are individual songs that are themed around a video game, like their Cuphead the Musical is based around the game Cuphead, obviously. And it's called a musical because it is both poking fun at and using the trope of people bursting into song in a universe where it wouldn't really make sense and isn't explained in story. So Cuphead the Musical is about the bosses from Cuphead all bursting into a song about how they're going to kill Cuphead in the Random Encounters world. Musicals, as used in the context of stuff man on the internet, that is, me, would write, would be full-scale productions, which is not necessarily live video, but it would be a full cast, a whole bunch of songs, all one story, and then many artists, many mixers, etc., working on one big long show where the songs are part of the musical, the songs are not the musical. This means saying stuff like, say, Spear of Justice the Musical, or Marine Corps the Musical, is inaccurate, and so is I love your Undertale musicals, man on the internet, because I've only made the one. So keeping in mind that from start of writing to finish of the video being released on YouTube, Undertale the Musical took about 2 years to be released, you can kind of understand why I don't really take requests for what musical to do next, because honestly, it's not something I can just churn out immediately to meet whatever flavor of the month is there. I think this is best illustrated with Hello Neighbor. I got a couple of requests to do Hello Neighbor the Musical when the game was still in beta stage. Then it turned out that the full game actually wasn't that much more story involved than the beta. And it turned out that the game was actually a huge pile of shit. So the fan base completely disappeared. Now, if I did make a Hello Neighbor the Musical based on a couple of comments, and to be fair, there weren't as many comments as some other games, then it would be for a fan base that didn't exist, because the flame of Hello Neighbor's 15 Minutes of Fame had completely died out. And there I go mixing metaphors. But what I'm trying to say is that I can't really make musicals based on whatever flavor of the month game is out there. Because if they end up like Hello Neighbor, then, well, they're basically nothing, and there is nothing to make a musical about, because the game sucks. Now, this isn't going to be the case for every game that people request me to do a musical for. There's obviously no correlation there. Another reason Hello Neighbor the Musical wouldn't really make that great a musical would be, well, frankly, it doesn't have a whole lot of music to it. So keeping in mind Hello Neighbor as containing many, many examples of why I wouldn't take a request for a game, no music, minimal plot, flavor of the month, I'm going to be addressing some other video games and why I would not make musicals of them, so as to give an explanation that is just beyond no, and goes beyond there's a lot of work that goes into the production of a full-length video game musical. Cuphead, the musical. Now, Cuphead I actually really like. I love the gameplay, I love the music, I love the animation. The animation is fantastic. But it wouldn't really make for a good musical. Partially because it's a little bit flavor of the month, though the fanbase is still around, unlike Hello Neighbor. But mostly, the plot isn't really made for a musical. It's mostly just an excuse to get to the gameplay fast. For role-playing games like Undertale or Chrono Trigger, the plot is an essential part of the game. For Cuphead, you could just sum it up by saying, fight guys, go, and you wouldn't really lose an essential part of the game. Plus, the bosses of Cuphead, which are the main draw, show up once, and they have their one song. I guess they technically show up at the end to say, "Congratulations, Cuphead and Mugman, for saving our souls." And several characters in a row who just show up for one song and then leave doesn't really make for an engaging musical because the audience doesn't have any reason to care about people if they just kind of go in and out like a revolving door. So yes, Cuphead, great game, wouldn't make that great a full-length musical. Bendy and the Ink Machine, the musical. I've gotten requests to do Bendy and the Ink Machine for about as long as Bendy and the Ink Machine's been around. Yes, this includes when it was just Chapter 1. Now, for those of you who do not remember, when Chapter 1 was the only chapter of Bendy and the Ink Machine, it was basically a proof of concept. You walk through brown corridors, you pick up randomly placed items, you occasionally see a spooky thing, and then a cardboard cutout of Bendy waves in front of you, and that's its major scare. I was asked to do a musical of just that. Now, at the time of this recording, Bendy and the Ink Machine is still not fully released. It is only up to Chapter 4 out of 5, which, to be fair, is more than when the heyday was around and I got requests when Chapter 2 was released. But, I can't really make a musical out of a game that is not finished, and even if I could, the plot isn't really there. You go into a spooky factory, it's full of spooks, and you want to leave. That's the plot of most bare-bones horror games, honestly, and there's not too much else to Bendy. I think why people like this is it's another Flavor of the Month game, and it's got a pretty neat aesthetic of 1920s and 30s cartoons, like Steamboat Willie style. However, there's no music, it's unfinished, and they change the plot with each update. They go back and update the first chapters to better match up with the newest chapter. So even if I did, start writing Bendy and the Ink Machine the musical back when Chapter 1 was just released, I'd have to go back and change everything to factor in what's happening in the next chapter, and then wait for the next one. Now, even if I decided to make Bendy and the Ink Machine the musical when Bendy and the Ink Machine the musical is fully released, there's still no music, and in the time it takes me to fully write, complete, and produce the thing, I guarantee you the Bendy fanbase will be gone, or just seeking out videos that have Bendy and the Ink Machine in them, so they can leave the very helpful comment, "Bendy and the Ink Machine is dead," because that's a good use of their time. So, yeah, Bendy and the Ink Machine. No music, barely any plot, not even a finished game, guys, come on. Five Nights at Freddy's, the musical. This is the one I was called a heartless fuck-ass for saying I can't do. So you can judge for yourself whether or not I am, but here are the facts. Five Nights at Freddy's does have a deep and intricate plot, yes, but most of that is revealed in lore, and not through the actual gameplay of closing doors on animatronics. It also changes wildly from game to game. Scott Cawthon may or may not have it all planned out ahead of time, but with every reveal we get in a new game, it wildly changes the perception of the game. So, even if I were to start writing, around when it was first requested was Five Nights at Freddy's 4 was released, then I would have to change several details and several songs and basically rewrite the whole thing from scratch when Sister Location was released, and then when this newest game, Pizzeria Simulator, was released, and probably also when the Ultimate Custom Night gets released because I guarantee you there's going to be Easter eggs in there. It's also one of the nastiest examples of Flavor of the Month I've seen. It's a cycle, really. It goes, game comes out, people are super excited. Couple of weeks passed, usually a month. People go into the videos looking up specifically Five Nights at Freddy's so that they can say Five Nights at Freddy's is dead. New game comes out. People are excited. Then the same thing repeats over and over and over and over. And people get nasty when people say, "Hey, I like Five Nights at Freddy's." It's a little ridiculous, honestly, and I think I'd rather stay out of that whole nonsense. I would much rather make musicals about games I like than Five Nights at Freddy's, which doesn't have that great a plot, except in backstory, which is not the focus of Five Nights at Freddy's, and doesn't really have music. So yeah, no Five Nights at Freddy's. No Five Nights at Freddy's sister location either, which was, now that I recall, the one that he wanted to make a musical for, just that one particular game. Yeah, wow. Nintendo and Sega games. Now, these are a different story than flash-in-the-pan games like Bendy or Hello Neighbor, because Nintendo and Sega are actually well established, they're AAA studios, and they regularly release really, really good games that aren't just flashes in the pan. The problem is, they're pretty litigious. Like, the instant I upload songs from Splatoon or Legend of Zelda that have lyrics over them, it's an automatic, copyright claim, so I cannot get them monetized. So, even though I love Nintendo games, and would one day maybe like to tell kind of like my own story using their universe, that is probably not going to happen, because Nintendo is very, no when it comes to you using their intellectual property. Sega, I would imagine, is the same way, but for games like Sonic, they already have vocals, and I really can't top eliminating anyone who is not your friend. Actual lyric, look it up. And I don't think I'm going to be a Nintendo ambassador anytime soon because I say the fuck word. So, yeah, sorry, no Nintendo musicals from me. No Sega either. This doesn't stop me from making just original lyrics that aren't connected to a full musical, but those are probably going to be rare because I get copyright claimed and they don't get monetized. Undertale Alternate Universes, the musical. Whew, wow. Okay, Undertale has its good parts of the fandom and its really bad parts. And this is perhaps best shown in the microcosm that is Undertale Alternate Universes. Now, some of these have thought put into them, like a whole lot of ideas as to how the world around them would actually change if X was different, like, what if Asgore was evil and way more corrupt? How would that change Underfell? Unfortunately, 99% of the fan base of Undertale AUs do not really have use for subtlety. A lot of it is because they are children. I'm not going to lie, there is a huge fan base of children that both watches this channel and likes Undertale AUs. So, a lot of the explanation for why is everyone evil in Underfell is because they're evil. As was lovingly explained to me by one particular comment that said, "Yeah, it's an explanation, dumbass." You see, I've been called a dumbass and told to go die for not liking Undertale AUs even before I made the videos that were jokes in the month of April. And then once I did, people who liked Evil Sans or Sans but he is Papyrus came out of the woodwork to tell me to go fuck myself for not liking the things they liked. So, spite is definitely a factor in why I am not making AU musicals. Another big reason why not is, guys, it's just Undertale but slightly different. I've already done Undertale the musical. I don't want, hell, no one actually needs another Undertale musical, but it's just slightly different, like everyone is red, or people are in different places, or Papyrus is out of character. Now, arguments that have been made against this idea is that, no, it's way deeper than that. Here's what's canon. And here is what's unique about Undertale AUs and why it is an absolutely terrible idea to make a musical about them. Now, Underfell, Underswap, and Disbelief, which I'm using as examples because not only are they the most common alternate universes I get asked/told to do, but also the ones that I made joke videos about, started out as aesthetic blogs, or just shitposts, basically. And then people came around and made an entire alternate universe around them, like, oh, you like the characters red? Well, actually, they're all evil and in hell and cannibals and blah blah blah. Or, oh, well, actually, it's Sans was killed, so Papyrus is now the edgelord. And the original creator said, you know what, sure, whatever you say happens is canon, which is code for, all I wanted to share was an aesthetic that I really liked. You people have bastardized my creation and keep crediting me for, honestly, really weird stuff. I want no part of this. So that means everything is canon about Underfell, Underswap, or Disbelief. And since everything is canon, people are going to have wildly different ideas about what is and isn't canon in Underfell, Underswap, etc. So one person may think, oh, Metaton is an actual killing machine in Underfell, and another person may think, no, actually, he's a really kind, sweet boy who gets tortured regularly by Alphys every hour on the hour and just wants to die. And both of them would technically be right. Another really good example of, no, people have wildly different canon personalities, and an actual comment I got was, Napstablook. He is the same, but a little ruder. And people tell me, no, your Underfell where just everything is deeper, angrier, redder, and edgier is incorrect, when people say, no, the canon personality is the exact same thing as Undertale the musical, but a little ruder. So, that is one person's opinion, though, and another person could say, no, Napstablook is actually really angry and has Tourette's rather than depression, and they would be right too. So if I were to make Underfell, Underswap, Under Disbelief, which I'm sure is a separate AU from the regular Disbelief, there would be a horde of people telling me I'm doing it wrong. Now, I already got those from comments saying, no, Sans is actually a murderer who will kill you in 1 second, his first song should have been Megalovania, or, no, Muffet's actually really sweet and nice, she would never attack anyone, from people who haven't actually played Undertale. But with Underfell, Underswap, those people would technically be right, and they would be much louder in much bigger droves, talking about how I'm doing Underfell wrong, which is, to put it another way, not the way they want it. When everything is treated as canon, nothing is canon, because everything just contradicts itself. And there is no way in hell I can make a coherent musical about that that's not just Undertale again, which I've already established. No, that's not going to happen. So this is a lot longer and a lot more real talk than your typical Meme Monday, so here's the too long didn't listen version of it. Why don't I take requests for musicals? Well, because a lot of people are confused as to what musical means. It's not just one song, it's a whole bunch of songs in a multi-hour package. And by the time they get finished, in the cases of flash-in-the-pan games like Hello Neighbor or Bendy, there's not going to be a lot of demand for them. And there are some that just don't make very good musical ideas. So I hope this gave you a little insight as to why I don't do what some people want me to do. Alright, take care, everybody.